Okay, friends, so what we're going to look at here is this idea of rounding up for education. So the example I painted for you in the homework there was the cost of the meal was $5.40. Okay, $5.40. Okay, we are then going to give Taco Bell money to get that up to the next whole number of dollars, which would be $6, right? Be $6. So we're actually going to have a grand total of $6 paid to Taco Bell. So the donation that we're going to make has to be an extra 60 cents, right? No dollars and 60 cents, because the 540 plus the extra 60 goes up to the $6. It's kind of like putting a tip on a bill at a restaurant or something like that, except the waiter's not getting the 60 cents. The Taco Bell Education Foundation is. Okay, so what I started thinking about when I first encountered this, and when I go back to Taco Bell, they're still doing this promotion, is, well, that's interesting. You're giving them a donation, and that donation is part of the whole that you pay. So my brain started thinking, part whole. That sounds like a mathematical idea. And it is. It's the idea of a percentage. So the way that most students, at least in my experience, understand percentages, or a percent, is a part over the whole. Now, there is a reason it's called percent, and we'll get back to that in just a second. But for starters, I want to focus on this part over whole. Give me 1 second to clear the board, and we're going to start this whole thing again. Okay, now, in order to do percentages, what you basically have to do is identify the part and the whole. And you may have remembered earlier when I had the numbers on the board, I was interested in the donation part as compared to the whole that I had to pay. So in other words, my brain had already established that the whole, in this case, was that $6. The part is the piece of it that I'm interested in. So in the Taco Bell example I just gave you, the part was the 60 cents. The whole was the entire $6. Now some of you might be wondering, where'd the 540 go? The 540 is another part. That grand total that we paid was made up of two parts. The original cost of the meal and the extra that I added on. So when you're dealing with percentages, you have to be able to identify which part are you interested in. I was interested in the donation part, and I wanted to know what percent of the entire cost is the donation that I made. So it ends up being 60 cents over $6. Now, in case this is freaking you out, because it's got decimals in it, a couple ways you can deal with this. One is you can just plug these numbers directly into a calculator. And if you use Google, it's going to look something like this, and it's going to spit the answer out right for you. Another way, if you don't like that, I think you will like it. If you don't like that, you could change everything to just cents. And you can realize that since you're talking about cents or dollars in the top and the bottom, you're just dealing with numbers. You're talking about a number divided by a number. So if you want to think about this in terms of cents, if the decimals are freaking you out, you can just say it's 60 cents over 600 cents. That's another way you can do it. Although with technology available to us, you can just let it do that for you. A big part of this class is actually dealing with exactly these kinds of questions, like how do you deal with dollar signs or cent signs or pounds or inches or feet? We'll get into more of that later. Any way you look at it, when you divide 60 by 600 or 60 cents by $6, you're going to get a decimal, most likely, of 0.1. That is verbally stated as 1/10. And you learned this in your previous math classes. That's the same thing as 1/10. Now, way back when we started doing this example, we were talking about percentages. Percent. Per, this part of the word, is represented by that fraction line right there. Something we're going to get into very, very soon in this class. Very, very soon. We already have in some ways with the Turtle Lab, but we're going to keep getting into that. Cent means 100. That's the Latin prefix, suffix, something fix for 100. That's why there's 100 cents in a dollar. That's why there's 100 years in a century, things like that. This fraction is written 1 per 10. 1 per 10. But in your previous math classes, you can rewrite this so that it is something per 100, which makes it percent. So if this fraction is 1 over 10, what would that equal over 100? Well, since the denominator is 10 times more than this denominator, this numerator has to be 10 times more than that numerator. The way I've often taught this in the past, when I taught the class you would have taken previous, is whatever you did here times 10, you also have to do here times 10. And this, my friends, is the answer to the question. What percent was the donation? And the answer is, it was a 10% donation. So in other words, I donated 10% of that $6 to the Education Foundation for Taco Bell. The other 90% was my food. So 100% of the cost was that $6. The 60 cents was 10% of the donation. And the $5.40, which is irrelevant, is the other 90%. Does that make sense? Let's look at another example to make sure.